This is head coach Sundance Wicks of the University of Wyoming Cowboys, and you are on episode 123 of the Talking Grammar Podcast. Let's get dirty.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Jeff Grammer with the Albuquerque Journal, and you heard the man. This is episode 123 of the Talking Grammar Podcast. Today's guest, Wyoming basketball coach Sundance Wicks, joins us in just a minute. For now, I want to make sure to thank you, first of all, for being here. If you're watching, if you're listening, however you're consuming this podcast, I'm glad you're here. Thankful for you. None of this happens without you guys, so very much appreciative of that. Also, very thankful for Sandia Sportsbook sponsoring this podcast, as well as several others on the Albuquerque Journal podcast network. Several of the sports podcasts Sandia Sportsbook is now sponsoring, and much appreciation to the good folks over there for doing so. This podcast is kind of kicking off Mountain West basketball season. As I recorded this, there is the first Mountain West basketball game later tonight, Air Force and San Diego State, but coming up on Saturday is really the first full day of action around the league. And the Lobos, UNM Lobos, play San Jose State in the Pit. Wyoming, the Coach Sundance Wicks team, who's today's guest, they host Grand Canyon, league newcomer. All kinds of good storylines. The story, or the game of the week rather, is really Colorado State playing at Utah State to start league action on Saturday. But this is not a league preview episode per se. This is episode 123 with Sundance Wicks, and I really do hope you enjoy getting to know one of the best personalities in the game, and certainly in the Mountain West. Tons of energy. Always a good conversation with Sonny, and it's long overdue that I had him here on the podcast. So hope you guys do enjoy this. After the interview with Sundance, I am going to also share this week's episode 6 of What's Up in 505. I had a quick conversation. What's Up in 505 is another podcast that I do that is stories about sports stories around the 505 told in 5 minutes and 5 seconds, and just kind of a quick hitting way to sort of get you some of the other names, some of the other storylines that aren't going to be on my primary beat, which is Lobo basketball. There's not going to be too many Lobo basketball podcasts on What's Up in 505. But I do think that there is a lot of stories and a lot of personalities around town that deserve a little bit of your attention. So after the Sundance Wicks podcast, or interview rather, I do have the episode that you could also get on the Journal's YouTube channel, What's Up in 505, with new UNM Lobo soccer coach Carly Nelson. Hope you guys watch that as well. For now, let's get to it, man. Sundance Wicks. I think you're going to have fun with this one. I know I sure did. And episode 123 of the Talking Grammar Podcast starts right now. All right, man, let's get rolling, man. Sundance, what's up, man? You guys, as I'm talking to you today, out on my patio, some dead leaves behind me, but a beautiful day in Albuquerque. What's Laradise like today?
Hey, living the dream, trying not to wake up, as you well know. But I'm telling you, it's a weird El Nino style event going on right now. It is the middle of December, 50 degrees outside, and it's raining in Laradise. It's raining. It doesn't make any sense. There's no snow on the ground. There hasn't been snow on the ground yet, and so I'm a little bit pissed off, big dog, because I like when teams come up to Laradise and the weather's crappy and they don't want to be here. And so
man, and it seemed like what you got this week, you got a newcomer. You got to welcome a Mountain West newcomer into the league with true Laradise style, and there won't be any snow on the ground for Grand Canyon.
The only thing they're going to get is a heavy dose of altitude. That's all they're going to get. I'm not sure they're going to get. They might get some wind, but they're not going to get any snow. They may get some rain right now and make it feel like we're down in the south for some reason, but I don't know what's going on right now. So I'm going to take it while we can, because me and my wife are having some great walks with the kids outside right now, and we're still it's still shorts weather up here.
Yeah. All right. Well, first of all, Grand Canyon going up there, they don't have to worry about it. The game's played indoors, so don't worry about it, Grand Canyon. You'll be fine. I'll jump right there. First of all, I want everyone to know, I told you yesterday when I shot you a text, I'm not preparing. I'm not preparing at all. And that's the way to go with this. My boss will love hearing that too, that I didn't prepare at all for this, but that's the way to go with you, because why box into a certain kind of line of questioning? But I want to start with this. You guys do play at the highest court in the land, and a team like Grand Canyon coming in, that's nice and all, but when you guys play a really slow down style, it doesn't really get full effect. You guys this year are running a little bit, aren't you?
I mean, I had to adjust, right? And the great ones adjust, as Linda always said that. The great ones adjust. For us, we knew we had to go if we wanted to play a certain way, which we wanted to use the altitude to our advantage. Arena Auditorium, aka the AA, doesn't stand for Arena Auditorium; it stands for altitude advantage. And so we were, 350th in pace the last 2 years at Green Bay and Wyoming last year. It doesn't quite, you don't squeeze all the orange out of the orange juice, if you know what I'm saying here. And so we recruited depth, we recruited speed and skill and want to, probably not some size, and Grand Canyon's got size. Yeah. But you know what? Our goal is when we get them here at home, we want to run some of that size and see how good a shape you're in. And mental toughness can take you, far, but I'm not sure it can take you to the physiological heights that the altitude deprivation can take you to. And we've seen that, man. We've seen that in our preseason or non-conference. We try to chart Webbers. I'll tell you what Webbers are, Jeff. Webbers or Chris, we call them Chris Webbers or Webbers. So we want 5 guys grabbing their shorts, pulling them down below their knees, and putting their hands on their knees and huffing and puffing, and we call them Webbers. And so when we see that, we'll start pointing out, we got Webbers out here. And
that's
just a point of pride.
Brought that up because I was going to ask: is there a point in the second half where you see the shorts starting to tug during a foul, during free throws or something like that? Is there a certain timeout that okay, by now we're about to see it?
So we say go to 35, minute 35. So at minute 35, we do a ton of charting. Just how many teams are missing shots short. What are they doing on the free throw line at minute 35? We start to see the effects kind of wear down. And you don't beat teams in the first 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. But at minute 35, when it starts to get to winning time, and if we're in the fight, we really start to see some of that pressure and that stress just kind of mount up. And teams that don't play a lot of guys, that really affects them, right? Especially if we've controlled the pace and tempo. And right now we've done a good job, but to that point, I'll be very eject about our stuff too. Like our schedule hasn't been, it's not what you would classically consider as one of the tougher schedules in the non-conference from a rankings perspective. But you still have to win games the way you win them, and you still have, if you want to game the net, you still got to win by margins. You got to have good efficiencies. I think we've done that. So we're excited for the test, man. We don't need any edge or any chip. Like, our guys know where we're picked. We know what we are. We still have a lot to prove. We didn't do crap in year 1, and I told our guy we haven't done crap in year 2. So you posted the standings the other day. Everybody's 0-0.
Everyone's 0-0, but then there's some guys out there kind of messing things up and putting out some grades. And I'm telling you, man, like, based on expectation and performance, and the schedule is what it is. You just brought it up, and I mentioned it in what I wrote. There isn't a top 100 Ken Palm win or anything like that.
Yep.
But you did. I think your best win was a loss at Texas Tech. You guys showed you could fight. And you did what you implemented a style and implemented a culture and a kind of a personality against the schedule you had. And you guys were the only team I gave an A+ to. I imagine there's probably some of you that, first of all, I'm flattering myself if I think any coach really cares too much about that. But B, while you're appreciative of that, you probably also don't want your team having too many people telling them what a great job they're doing when it really just starts right now.
Rat poison, Jeff. Rat poison. What it is. A rat poison, man. And I do appreciate the good marks. I was a good student in school too, so I'm used to getting A's. We look at that and you go, we haven't done crap. At the end of the day, we put ourselves in a position to be in position. And honestly, we're if not close to a quad 1 road win right now if the team comes into AA and goes at us. So we're not surprising anybody. We're not sneaking up on anybody. There's no locker room fodder. Anybody needs to come play us anymore. You might have had to try to convince your team to get up for us last year, and that's why we had so many close games. But when it comes to it this year, we all know the reality of it. Road wins are hard to come by, and if you get a good road win, that's a big resume builder. And so we got to still defend the dome. We got to do our job. But we're not taking anybody lightly, and honestly, there's so much crap these guys got to prove. That's why I love this group of guys, is because we got a bunch of underdogs that really haven't been handed anything in life, and guys coming from lower levels. We only had 5 guys play Division I basketball last year, right, on our roster. So it reminds me of the Green Bay makeup. We had a bunch of Division II guys, some JUCO guys, a hodgepodge of dudes. Called them the island of misfit toys. And that's kind of the way I like it. I like to coach that way, and this team is starting to shape up that way as well.
All right. Well, the motivational factor of Sonny D and getting the juice going. Everybody's seen it since the day you were hired. Some people knew it before you were hired, when you were hired, but before the press conference. People saw it at the press conference. people have seen it in just about every interview you've done, but now they're starting to see it on the court, I think, reflected, taking on the personality of the coach and the fighting mentality. I am curious how long you've been, I suppose, how long have you been this way? Why are you the way you are, man? Like, have you always been this way, or was there any turning point in your life that you decided, I'm going to start being more positive?
I don't think you've fully become like awake, like, you kind of understand, like, aware and awake of who you are. I go back to high school and I thought I was a certain way. Everybody told me, like, you were the same way in high school. You walk around with a bounce in your step. You kind of peacocking around all the time. Like, I move at a different pace. My wife hates walking with me because I walk too fast. I'll probably walk 10 feet in front of her all the time. I can't slow down. And I don't know, it's a gift and a curse, right? As strength overused becomes a weakness, right? When you just sit there and like, that's all you can do. You got to find ways to kind of channel it. And I think in the coaching profession, you can have all the intensity of a mad dog in a meat house, but if you don't have technique, you get a bullet between your eyes. You got to learn to channel what you have. And that wasn't until later in my college coaching career, after we got let go at Northern Illinois, didn't win enough games. We got let go at San Francisco. The job wasn't done there. And then I go back to Northern State, and Paul Sather really helped me refine kind of who I am and my gifts in the coaching aspect of it all. Because it's just energy, effort, enthusiasm is great, but you got to have execution. And so I think to that point, I have to spend a lot more intentional time on the execution side of stuff and the planning and the preparation side of stuff. But everybody tells me I've had this since I was, in high school and junior high. And you don't know. You got to have other people be expert witnesses, because I can't be an expert witness for myself. I can't remember crap I did yesterday. So The fact of the matter is I got a good staff that keeps me in line, and I got good players who check me all day long.
You mentioned some of your previous stops. I'll make a quick little pit stop in this conversation to ask about Jerry Kill, because a media day was the first time I heard you mention Jerry Kill, and I'm like, wow, as a New Mexico State guy, and people watching this obviously are very well aware of Jerry Kill's couple years at New Mexico State down the road. Tell me when you cross paths with Jerry Kill and what you take from your time with Jerry Kill.
I love Killer, man. Like, when I got to Northern Illinois, it's like one of those weird Youngstown, Ohio deals. You had like Nick Saban and Jim Tressel and all those guys, like Youngstown, Ohio, like a hotbed of coaches. When we went to Northern Illinois in 2007, Coach Novak had just retired, and Jerry Kill had just got hired. And on that staff, Jerry Kill had was Jay Savell, who's our head football coach at Wyoming. I think he was the defensive backs coach at the time, and PJ Fleck, who was the wide receivers coach at the time. And then Tracy Claves was on staff and ended up being the head coach at Minnesota for a while. So Killer is like got this all-star staff together, right? I'm on staff with Dennis Gates, who's now the head coach at Missouri. And then there's me there. And we just got all these minds like that. And when you are around people who are just, they live it, this is all they do, like, you want to pick their brain. And so I remember going over to Kill's office one day, just dead zone and dead time. And I walked up in there, just wanted to say hi to Killer, and I want to ask him a couple questions. I'm young, hungry, just, idiot that just always wants to pick. I always want to waste everybody's time. That's what I want to do. I want to waste everybody else's time. That's the way, at least I looked at it. And I asked him about his recruiting philosophy, and he was so great. And he had that little Southern draw that he has, right?
Yep.
And he goes, Sundance, come on in, man. Good to see you, brother. Good to see you. And I said, well, can I talk about recruiting? Like, you guys seem to always hit it right with your recruits. He goes, Siri, knock it off. He goes, Sundance, I don't try to complicate this stuff. I mean, we recruit three things in our program: speed, skill, and want to. And here's the deal, Sundance. If you don't want to do it, you ain't going to do it. All right. So why would we recruit anything else other than want to? Speed and skill just come after that. And I was like, this is so profound, right? Like, it's so simple. It's beautiful, right? And simplicity is complicated. And we adapted that philosophy here. I said, we got to recruit guys who want to be at Wyoming.
Yep.
Recruit guys who want to prove that they're better than what they are, or somebody didn't believe in them. And then we want to recruit speed and skill, because my old college coach never sacrificed size for speed or speed for size. He's like, you'd always rather be faster than big and slow and can't guard anybody, right? So just be fast and scrappy. And so we recruited speed, skill, and want to this year intensely in our staff. And that was an old Jerry Kill philosophy. And I still carry that with me, man. Football coaches could teach you a lot of things. I love studying football, Jeff. I'm just telling you this right now. I will never, ever, ever want to be a football coach, ever.
Yeah.
I don't know how to do it. I don't know how they do it. They got 1,000 people running around all the time. They got 19 coaches and coordinators. They got all these. I mean, you have to give up so much control, and you have to be a CEO and have guys have to have so much autonomy. I couldn't do it.
I mean, you got some half court sets right behind you. You could, drop some plays and this and that. Like the head coach of a college football team anymore, there's so little of that I think they do anymore because there's so much else that they got to do. So many meetings and so much putting up with guys like me, interviews all week long. Like it is CEO far more than the old ball coach kind of thing, right? And sometimes you just want to be the old ball coach. You want to get with the guys and work on some plays and see what they can get.
Well, that's what Jerry Kill was, right? He was the old ball coach. And then Craig Bowl I always thought it was funny, man. Like Craig Bowl was the old ball coach, but he was in charge of the kickers, right? Like he was in charge of the field goal kickers. It was like the old ball coach, like the CEO now, he's like, I got enough time to just dial in on John Hoyland, the beautiful red shoe, and make sure he's the best kicker in the world, right? Like that's just be great at what you're good at, man. Be great at what you're good at.
All right. Well, I touched on motivational stuff with you too earlier. But before I hit record on this, we talked a little bit about belief. You're a Ted Lasso fan. I'm a Ted Lasso fan. I am curious if something is as cheesy as it sounds, and people who haven't watched Ted Lasso still don't get it, but as cheesy as it sounds, like how much of Ted Lasso, maybe not specific, but just the way he and that show kind of presented itself. I'm curious, like, I know you're a fan. So what does Ted Lasso mean to you?
I think for me, it just means we can't take ourselves too serious. Right. And we're all serious in our competitive realm. Like I go on the floor for 2 hours. I'm as maniacal and as serious as anybody. I'm not Ted Lasso on the soccer field where I can just sit over there and just kind of laugh and talk, like I get maniacal on it. But outside of that, when you come into the office, there's a lightness here. There's a fun and a youthful exuberance in our office where we don't take ourselves serious. We watch a ton of film with guys, but we bring them in. I might sit in my office and watch a bunch of YouTube clips, or we might, death scroll with some guys and just watch some just highlights of Ted Lasso. I mean, you can find them all over Twitter. Like we'll do whatever makes the office vibe. We always say protect the vibe. We got to protect the vibe around here because ultimately so much pressure and stress and all this stuff, right? And the Ted Lasso paints a beautiful picture of what the pressure is like as a coach in a really demanding environment, but also what the stresses are like in life when you have to go through stuff, right? And we can't compare journeys, and all of us have our own story to tell, and we should all tell it at some point. But you got to have people around you who make you laugh. I love hiring. I hire the person more than the position. So every single person I hired in the staff, I know that they make me laugh. And I want to be around people who can imitate, who watch movies. I got a bunch of guys who are 90s, 2000s movie gurus, which is all we talk. We speak in a different language in our office. We speak in movie talk, which is fun for us. And then the inside jokes just go round and round, right? And I think the life lessons from Ted Lasso can be translated to any profession or any place. But for me, I love the personal stuff of this. Nobody knows what coaches and their wives and their families and their kids go through, because they just see us on game night and they're like, that must be fun. They're just coaching basketball. And it's just so much more than that.
I think it's so hard for the fan and the media too, to disassociate you from sitting up behind a microphone multiple times a week, and we ask questions and we go through this work process, and we see you doing something so unique in that you're the one guy standing up talking to the refs, talking to the players, and you're a coach. So like it's really hard for a lot of people to forget that coach is what you do, and then there's a life outside of that. I think Ted Lasso is good at that, reminding people that these are people too. I think he's also really good and I'm in a sports world where, and you know how much I'm on social media more than I should. Like there's a lot of hate out there, and the only thing that gets heard is hate. And he's like, all right, it's okay to be nice. Like as simple as it sounds, there's nothing wrong with good people. Like you could be a good person too. You don't always have to have the hot take and tear things down. So I think there's some there's a lot to be learned in that show. And as funny as it sounds, and Apple is not a sponsor. Sandia Sportsbook is, by the way. I'll mention that. They got their little logo down there. But I love Ted Lasso. I didn't mean to veer off that much off course with Ted Lasso, but I appreciate you for indulging me on that.
But it humanizes you. Ted Lasso I think it's about humanization, man. It humanizes you. And like you do a good job, man. You've always been one of my favorites because you humanize The
I
guy.
think that's the biggest thing we can do in our job is I'm never going to be as good I'm never going to be Ken Palm. I'm never going to be Ken Pomeroy with the numbers. I can bring you the numbers that they bring. I'm never going to be able to draw up a play. I'm not CJ Moore in understanding the game like a coach, like you guys do. I'm never going to be that kind of guy. But what I can do is I can help build a community around my work, which happens to be Lobo basketball right now. And that community is like everybody wants to be in on it. And to be in on it, you got to know that one player, played piano his whole life. You got to know that one guy, had a rough upbringing, or that one guy maybe didn't, and everybody kind of gives them a hard time in the locker room about it. And you do have to humanize people to remind them that they aren't just figures on the court.
It makes it all worth it, man. Makes it all worth it.
It does. Let's talk a little more basketball now, though. Forget that humanizing stuff. Now let's get to the nose. You guys are a team that was picked where you were picked, ninth, I think, 9th out of 10. Coincidentally, there's some weird success out of the 8-9 spot through the years. I think when you were on Wyoming staff the last time, I think Wyoming was at 8 and made a run. So there's some weird success in that 8-9 spot in the Mountain West preseason poll. But you guys are doing what you're doing primarily. Why? Is it just the like X's and O's wise? I'm not talking the want to. I know that's who you recruited. But what are you guys doing when people see Wyoming play and they're a lot of people are about to get a crash course on all these Mountain West teams? So what are people about to see with the Wyoming Cowboys this year?
Well, it's interesting. Everybody asks, what's your philosophy? What's your coaching philosophy? And honestly, it's the players. The players make it more important, right, than the plays. And so whatever you recruit to, whatever you're able to get in this day and age, there's different budgets for different people and different programs, and some guys can afford X and some guys can afford Y, right? And so for us, we just try to design the way we're going to play around the people that we have in our program and maximize their strengths, minimize their weaknesses. For us, knowing that we recruited speed, we wanted to play with more pace. Pace doesn't mean, and this is crazy, but last year Queens was one of the best transition teams in the country, and I think they averaged about 15 transition attempts a game or whatever, and they're really efficient out of it. So Florida was one of the highest points per possession out of it. They had like 17 transition possessions a game. So
I think that is probably one of the big misconceptions in current college basketball is pace and what that tempo number means on Ken Palm. That tempo number doesn't mean you're playing with proper pace anyway.
Yeah, playing fast doesn't mean you're getting 25 possessions a game. Honestly, if you look at a team that's playing 25 or 25% of their possessions in transition, you're probably not very efficient, and it's probably not very good for them. And so we knew that there was going to be a regression to progression. Actually, our transition numbers were really below average the first 6-7 games of the season, but the regression to progression, because to play fast, you have to learn how to play fast. You have to learn to pick and choose, like what are the right shots? How are we attacking the paint? Nick Nurse in Toronto, when he said he was playing fast, you're going to have to live with some missed layups in the rim. Your rim and paint decisions are going to have to, kind of accordingly speed up. Your decision-making process is going to have to speed up the faster you play. So you just slow down and make these reads. So we try to be pretty efficient in our transition right now, and I think that helps us at altitude. But then we're going to run a lot of ball screens, and we've always been a predominantly ball screen heavy program. Always learned that since I worked with Jeff. We're always going to try to find the advantage in the ball screen, seek the advantage, keep the advantage, create the advantage, keep the advantage. And the difference between this year's team and teams in the past for me is I've always had probably one dominant ball screen guy. Well, we got 4 or 5 guys that we can play out of the pick and roll. So spotting matchups off the basketball where it comes to maybe not putting your best on-ball defender in a ball screen or putting 2 guys that aren't used to being as many ball screens in the ball screen coverage, that's kind of worked out really well for us and allows us to keep our flow at a much better pace. So you're going to see a little bit of that. And then defensively, we just try to what we talk about is smart position pressure. And then we want to, if you're slow, we want to try to speed you up, a little bit of press, a little bit of tempo. And if you're fast, we want smart position pressure, and we're going to play a track meet. We want to have a track meet. So it works out well for us.
Well, getting people to play fast too. Like I know watching Eric this year, Eric Olin down at New Mexico, like he wants teams to play as fast as they want to play and faster than maybe they want to play, and get them into decision making that they're out of. Whether that's slow or fast, you just want them to be in positions that they have to make a decision that they're not used to, I guess, and just take them out of comfort zones and stuff like that. And I think that's what I'm loving about this year. Like between what you guys are doing, Eric's doing, Ollie down the road from you at Fort Collins, what you're doing at CSU, you guys are all kind of implementing styles and watching these teams kind of evolve under what the coaches are trying to get them to do. Look, Steve's a great coach at Nevada, and I covered him back here, right? But by now I have an idea what Steve and Noodles are going to do, and that's fine. That's not to take anything away. But from my perspective, I'm enjoying learning like these new styles and watching you guys pretty much start from scratch every year with these new rosters and implement something brand new.
There's been years in the Mountain West, when you're here for 2021 to all the way through. There have been years in the Mountain West where like everybody played the same way.
Yes.
And I was like, holy crap. Like every night was just a slugfest fist fight. And it was like, it was going into an octagon and being like, all right, we're all just punching each other's faces. The 21-22 season was insane to me. All right. Like that was a year. And then the year when we had 6 bids or whatever, 5 bids, like it was just, everybody was punching each other in the face. And it was like, who could just stay up longer? This year, there's a lot of conflicting styles, a lot of different, implementations. And that's to me, what makes scouting so important in this league is you have to find a way to get the advantage. And what is that going to be against a team that maybe has a different, Grand Canyon does some crazy zone stuff every once in a while where it looks a little bit more like the Syracuse zone. And you got all these teams, Air Force is still Air Force. It's like you just can't sleep on them, right? And then Tim Miles has been doing what Tim Miles does at San Jose. And it's just like you can't sleep on anybody in this league. For us, what's been unique, I think we're different than everybody in the league is because we play 12 guys. I'm literally playing 12 guys every night.
You think that'll stick, by the way, 12?
I do, because we're fives by committee. So we got 4 5-men, and they're all different and unique in their own skill set. And we try to maximize their strengths, minimize their weaknesses. But also, hey, if we're stealing your scouting report pages, all right, if you have to go from 2 pages to 3 pages, I know nobody wants to see 3 pages of guys on a scouting report. They want to keep it simple. But if you leave a guy off the scouting report for us, that guy's liable to hurt you. And then the assistant gets looked at by the head coach, like, why the hell isn't he on the scout, right? And he's like, he only plays 9 minutes a game. Well, we have a bunch of guys playing about 7 to 9 minutes a game, and then we have a bunch of guys averaging between 7 to 14 points. And any night, it could be somebody's night, and we don't have to rely on one guy, which is kind of nice for us right now. Now, that could all change, but I don't see it changing because our guys are so connected. They don't care about who plays. They care about winning, and that's refreshing as a head coach.
All right. Do you reset expectations within the season, or is expectation from day one the same as it is today from the outside? Obviously, our expectations are a little adjusted for you guys. I don't know. Like I wouldn't. I'll tell you, I wouldn't say that I think you guys are going to win the Mountain West, but I'd be shocked if you guys finished 9th at this point, like you were projected. So. I've obviously recalibrated what I expect. I think you guys can be in contention for that first day bye, which is only 4 this year in the Mountain West. I think you can be in that 4 or 5 range, right? I think that's where my expectations are. But as a coach, mentally, can you think in terms of like real specific expectations, or does that kind of defeat everything you're about if you do that?
You're as good as your last game. And at any point in time, if you get too comfortable, right, you try not to stay, try not to look at the past and go, oh man, like this is what happened and this is going to happen again, and look at the future, which hasn't happened yet, right? You create fear, doubt, and worry by looking at those 2 things. Try to stay as present as possible. We put a lot of pressure on our practices, right? Because we like best on best. I think we still probably practice as hard as anybody. We go a lot of live 5-on-5 every day, and we're not worried about losing guys to, knock on wood, to injury or anything. We just got good depth, and I think it keeps your guys sharp. Because the most important part is playing. I think it's really hard to replicate stuff 5-0. And so I like the Vince Vaughn analogy in dodgeball. When he goes, I try not to set goals or expectations because that way I'm never disappointed. And I thought that was
there's some truth to that, though. It
was very profound, man. Like anybody who sits there and says like we have to be this by this time, a lot of times is disappointed. Because how many times are you actually meeting or exceeding those expectations or the other side? Like, I just don't think you ever finished where you started. And last year was a weird year for us because we were picked 9th and we finished 9th. And I've never finished where we were picked. It's kind of weird.
Never got it right?
Yeah, you've never got it right. And like maybe you got some of them right, but I was like, we've never been there. And so we actually finished where we were picked. But we don't talk about goals. We don't talk about expectations. We live by standards. And we just say, this is a standard of our program. This is what we expect you to do when you come into a game or when you play. And We have, a ton of guys who watch film, and each guy, like, if you're not, last game, Jared Harris played about a minute. The game prior, Jared Harris played about 15, 16, and he was really good. And he played 1 minute, and he had a bad run, and I'm like, you're done. Like, you're not ready. And is that fair or unfair? I don't know, but it's good for us because we have depth, and it keeps them sharp. And so I want guys to stay laser focused on just the moment that they get to play or the practice that they're in. And so everybody else loves to adjust expectations, right? Like the net and all this, like, dude, like one game's going to change that crap like that. And then eventually you're going to, water always finds its level. As we talk about it with guys, like who we are will eventually show at some point. It's going to find our level, and we could either be really good or we could be really bad, or we could be somewhere in the middle. And at the end of the day, you wake up after about 6 months of this crap, Jeff, and you go, season's over now. That was good.
On to the next.
Or just move on. Like the portal's starting now. You
guys get no rest anymore, but
you don't. And so I don't the changing your expectations or narrative. If you do that, I think you add undue stress and pressure. I'm a big fan of just trying to be the underdog all the time. And
you blew that.
No matter where you're at, you're always the underdog, man. Yeah, man,
you can always tell yourself you're the underdog. I don't know that we're buying it much anymore.
They still picked us where we picked us. And as long as I always say there's no greater place to be than DFL, man. Dead freaking last. There's no greater place to be than DFL. That's why you take jobs that you can run into the fire. You don't take jobs that are like walking into $1 million mansion.
You can take a job like I do and just kind of sit back and watch everyone that runs into the fire or runs out, and then have like strong opinions about it. It's great. You got to try it sometime. All right, I'm going to rapid fire a few of these and we'll sign off. Like I said, nothing prepared, but I do want to ask you. Let's start with the Blazers, man. You do not show up with the off the rack kind of boring dark blue Blazer very often, man. You're all over the map. Tell me about the Blazers and how many do you have?
I got about 12 to 15 right now, and they'll vary. I wore a chartreuse one the other day. I'm not sure Wyoming is ready for chartreuse, but we broke out the chartreuse one, and it was more of a Grinch, kind of style.
All right.
Blazers started early. Ricardo Patton always said, man, don't dress for the job you have, dress for the job you want. I walked into my job on day one to Colorado in double XL cargo khaki shorts and a double XL oversized polo that wasn't tucked in and probably some flip-flops. He looked at me and said, what the hell you wear? He said, take your ass down to Nordstrom's, open up a credit card account, and go get yourself about $2,000 to $3,000 worth of nice custom slacks and polos. Man, I spent $2,000 so fast. I only got about 3 things. I'm like, this sucks. Okay. Wearing nice things is not cool. So he put me on his game where he took me to Jerry Lacey Jr. So JFL Corporation in Atlanta. JFL Corporation was the first time I ever got custom suits. Jerry Lacey is to this day. I still got a couple of his badass Blazers. And then I ran into Brian Morris, Bespoke by BMO. All right. And so he's my guy out of Kansas City. He's the plug that's got all the linings, all the stuff, like a custom. He does it right, man. That old Bespoke stuff is right. And so I love a good blazer, a good houndstooth, however you call it. And I just think you should respect the game. Not that it's a knock on anybody who wants to wear the Lulus and the quarter zips, because my staff does that. And it's become more of the norm. It's got to be funny if like everybody was like baseball, where they just wore like the jerseys.
Yeah, if you guys showed up in tank tops and shorts.
Those would be crazy as hell. I'd love that. That'd be a throwback day. But I think you respect the game. When I grew up in it, I loved watching coaches coach on the sideline in suits, ties. Yeah. And I thought it was fascinating. And then I got a collection of this stuff. And then when COVID hit, I'm like, well, I'm going to stop wearing it. No, I better keep wearing this crap. So I just think it separates you a little bit. And, you can always use a good blazer.
I love it. All right. What's the wife's thought on the Blazers?
She actually likes it. I mean, she's right. And she's fine with it. She just knows it's an expensive habit. So that's she gets to have her expensive habits. I get to have my expensive habits.
All right. The name. You've probably told the story a ton, but like, how does one come about the name Sundance?
I think you got to have a kind of a hippie, naturalistic father like my dad, Mark Wicks. Now, enemy of the status quo could be described as my dad, right? Enemy of the status quo. And then a mom who goes with the flow. They're 2 traditional Catholic families, all right? So my dad had 11 brothers, sisters. Mom had 6. Dan, John, Al, Tom, Linda, Barb, Mary, Trish, Pete, Paul, Robert. I mean, just pretty normal names in that sense. And my dad, being the way he is, Monster Man Mark Wicks, who played, the Monster Man at Washington State for the Cardiac Cougs back in the day, Legends of the Palouse. All right. So Monster Man Mark Wicks says, we're having a hard time coming up with a name. Firstborn son, he's like, let's name, we lived in Gillette, Wyoming. I was born in Rapid City. In between Gillette and Rapid City is Sundance, Wyoming. There's Sundance Mountain. He had an old car with a sun paint on the top of it called the Sundance Mobile. He called the place in Wyoming. We lived on the Sundance Ranch. He felt like obsessed with this name. So we couldn't think of a name. We're going to name our firstborn kid Sundance. My mom says, you're crazy. That'll never happen. We're not naming our kids Sundance. I mean, look at our families. And so I said the first thing I did when I came out was I smiled. And my mom said, there's no way we're not naming this kid Sundance. And to this day, I can just tell you right now, she was probably watching Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid and Robert Redford, R.I.P., God rest his soul, all right? Good-looking guy, blonde flowing locks. She's like, we're going to name our kid Sundance because I'll think about Robert Redford every time I think of him. And I don't blame her.
New Mexico home.
I don't. That's right. I don't blame her. So, yeah,
Awesome.
The Sundance Kid, man, and I never forget the first time I went to a playground. I was young, and I was introducing myself. You learn how to play. You learn social stuff at playgrounds. This kid says, "What's your name?" I said, "Sundance." He goes, "What's your real name?" I said, "Sundance." And he goes, No. What's your real name?" And I walked over to my dad. I said, "Dad, what's my real name?" And I think at that point, my dad realized I had screwed my son up for about a good 21 years because when I came 21,
exactly a boy named Sue, but it does kind of set you down a certain path, doesn't it?
Yep. And I was real skinny in growing up too. So my nickname in middle school and junior high was Sticks Wicks. So my last name was Wicks. They called me Sticks Wicks, and I had to fill up in college a little bit, Jeff.
There we go. All right. Dane Kuiper.
Dane Kuiper, man, legend of the Lobos. What a dude. Played for our Arizona Power Basketball Academy. Dane Kuiper, Connor McDougal, two guys that started off with us. Holy cow. You talk about the Alaskan assassin, tough-ass kid right there. The Kuiper family, they came out of the rugged bush of the Alaskan hills down to Arizona to come train with us, play with us, stay with us, and then ends up being a Lobo, man. I love that dude. I mean, you talk about just a man's man.
Yeah.
Dane Kuiper, baby. That's a Lobo legendary name right there. I sure hope they respect the pass down there still, because I can tell you what, Mitch Lightfoot was a guy that was committed to the Lobos, right? Yep. And then they had Connor McDougal was there for a stint, and then he transferred out. But Dane Kuiper, he rocked and rolled all the way through, didn't he?
Yeah, so it's funny you mentioned Mitch Lightfoot. He ended up having about an 8-year career at Kansas.
Yeah, he did. He was one of the longest standing Jayhawks, and maybe him and Teddy Allen had one of the longer careers in the college basketball history.
I think Teddy Allen, like Perry Ellis, Mitch Lightfoot, that's kind of this era's. A lot of people go to school for 7 years, kind of guys.
Van Wilder.
That's right. All right, man. That's last one for me. You as an opposing coach and your persona. Opposing fan bases, there's a few of them here, and you get Moby a little more than most. Moby can be good. When Moby's good, Moby's really good. Moby's not always really good, is what I say about it. The Spectrum's going to give it to everybody. The A-House will give it to everybody. The Pit gives it to everybody. But you also get Moby because of the rivalry.
Yep.
So with all that said, the Mountain West's best, let's just stick to student sections. No, just the best arena for an opposing coach to play in that it either gets in your head or you got to be special to handle the opposing arena. What is it?
I'm a little bit different. I like the interaction. I like the banter. Like I might talk to people on courtside or whatever. I'm a big fan of unique historical places that have like a sense of pride, history, and tradition about it, right? And there can be places that are hot or not, like you talked about, but places that stay true to who they are and really like rally around. Like you could be okay, but you're trying to encourage your team to win more, right? And I think when teams show up, even when a team is not doing well, that makes it special, right? And I'll say this, I'll give flowers to everybody here, but I know the Spectrum always shows up. And now I haven't seen Utah State have a down year in a while, right? So I don't know what that's like. So they've always been good in the recent history. So the Spectrum's always been wild. I think that their creativity and the way that they organize and plan and prepare from their student section is second to none, right? The Pit is unlike anything else that you get a greeting. Unlike any greeting you can ever have when Snake's out there waiting for the bus, right? And like then you walk in and just that student section right by the bench, all right, it's strategically placed. It always seems to mess not only with you but just with your guys, because there's always bantering there. And that to me is where, if you have a good team, you can stay locked in on the mission and not get, but if you're immature, you're going to be over there diddly dallying with all the people with the crazy face paint on and all the stuff like that goes down there. And then just the pit for itself, just the venue, the historical venue, and how much it's just huge. It's huge. The crowds that you can get. All right. Viejas is intriguing because of how vertical it is.
Yeah.
Like, that to me is like, that's on you. That's like feeling like you're in an octagon. So you better be ready for a fight. Everything just feels crammed on top of you. And I just like the vibe and that stuff, because it's like, man, you're in it here. Like, the only way out is to fight your way out. The only way out of Viejas is to fight your way out. Right. And like, well, I appreciate this about New Mexico fans too. I'm gonna say this too. I'll give you some flowers down there. Is that if you play a good game down there, albeit tension filled and like little contentious during the game, after the game, there's a wherewithal with the fans to respect the game and respect the opponent and be like, it's like walking out of Rupp. Like, fans in Rupp, you just know, like, that was a good game, coach. You guys were well prepared. You did your job. Like, I had people come up to us last year when we played you guys close down there, and either Borovicin or Milovich hit the shot, and the freshman hit the shot, and I was like, God, we stayed too long in the gap, and freaking A, right? And they came up and they talked after the game, and they were talking about the history and tradition, and this good game, coach. You guys were well prepared. I like that, man. I like the fact that we can just, when the buzzer goes off, we can shake hands, walk out of there, and we don't have to have any ill will or stuff. We can respect the game, right? And then the other arena right now that's pretty crazy is Extra Mile. Extra Mile is like, it's not Viejas vertical, but it's stacked on top of you. It's layered, and that has a feeling there too. That Extra Mile is in Boise's been good in the recent years, right? And then as much as I hate that school right down the road, that like when they show up for us now. They show up for the border war. For you guys. Yeah. Yeah, they show up for the border war, and the Moby Madness is real down there. And we're hoping that this year that we can get that back in the AA too. I'd like to be talked about. I'd like the arena auditorium to be talked about, as not just for the altitude advantage, right? But coming back to the Dome of Doom. That's which kind of what you fight. It's the worthy fight that you got to have as a coach. And there are programs that always show up and show out for their teams, and I always that you got to. If you build it, they will come. And we're building it right now. So I'm expecting a good crowd. I'm expecting a Dome of Doom on Saturday.
You got to – they just have to believe a little bit, right?
Hey, man. Hey, believe it, man. Believe it before you see it, right? That's faith, man. Faith. You got to take those steps.
You're awesome, man. I appreciate you doing this. Mountain West Play is ready to go. As we record this, there's a game tonight, but really gets going on Saturday, and then a little bit of time off, but then – really rolling right after Christmas. And I love this. I hate that it's changing next year. That's a whole nother podcast, but I hate that it's changing, but at least for one more year, I love this makeup of the Mountain West. And the Mountain West is always delivered. Since I've been covering it, the Mountain West is pretty much always delivered.
Mountain West is the Mountain Best, man. And I'll tell you what, at least we're going to be here next year, El Jefe. All right, Country Grammar, we'll be back in action. You know what it is.
Appreciate you, man. Talk to you later.
Hey, my man, 100 grand.
All right, there you go. Sundance Wicks. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I know I did. It's always a ton of fun. And like I said during the podcast, I promised him I was not going to prepare any questions. We're just going to go off the cuff and see, let it rip. And that's what we did there. So not that I prepared that much anyway, man. Who are we kidding, right? I get paid to watch basketball, man. I'm just having fun like everybody else. So there you go. Hope you guys enjoyed that with Sundance Wicks. We'll keep these podcasts going throughout the Mountain West season, throughout the basketball season. For now, I want to give you a quick glimpse of episode 6 of What's Up in 505, another podcast we do at the Albuquerque Journal that you can see independent of this podcast on the Journal's YouTube channel. It is not an audio podcast, so you can't get it that way. But video-wise, you can get it on YouTube. What's Up in 505, sports stories around the 505, told in 5 minutes and 5 seconds, and just trying to get you some personalities and some stories around Albuquerque that may not be on your radar otherwise. There's not going to be a lot of basketball, a lot of football stories, some of the other people and personalities and storylines around Albuquerque. Hope you enjoy this. What's Up in 505 with UNM women's soccer coach, Carly Nelson. What's going on, everybody? It's Jeff Grammer with the Albuquerque Journal, and this is What's Up in 505, sponsored by Sandia Sportsbook, as are a bunch of our sports podcasts at the Albuquerque Journal podcast network. So you should check some of those out as well. And we appreciate Sandia Sportsbook for doing so. This is What's Up in 505, sports stories around the 505 told in 5 minutes and 5 seconds. And today's guest is the new UNM Lobo soccer coach, Carly Nelson. Carly, are you ready for 5 minutes of hard-hitting questions and just really, really rough interview coming up? Are you ready?
I'm ready, Jeff. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Carly, you are now couple weeks in, a month in, I guess, as Lobo soccer coach. What's it been like since that hire to today?
Yeah, it's been great, honestly. The players, obviously, they were key in this transition, of course, and we had some time to meet as a team a few times before they went home for Thanksgiving. We had a few training sessions, which was great. Got to see them play. Not that we've obviously not seen them play before, but just see them kick around a little bit. Since the end of the season, got to talk a little bit about what we want the spring to look like, how we plan to move forward. They went home for Thanksgiving. They came back for a week and a half for the week before finals and the finals, and they're off again, So as far as interaction with them, it's been great. They're off enjoying their break, and for us, we're just getting things tidied up around the offices and ready for their return, starting to plan for the spring.
In college, I think some other sports are starting to experience what maybe some of the Olympic sports have known for years. Like there can be a lot of movement. Players can come and go as they choose. And I'm curious, with the coaching change, has there been any movement for you guys so far in the mid semester?
Yeah, fortunately there hasn't. Every player, when the change took place, we had individual player meetings, and every player committed to return. They want to be part of Lobo soccer. It's a special place to be. So we're really excited that we're returning everyone on the roster.
All right, recruiting is also ongoing, and
yeah.
right when the change was happening, right when you were hired, was a heavy recruiting time. How did that go? I imagine you were already recruiting some of these players, but what was the reaction on the recruiting trail to your hire?
Yeah, it was great. I mean, we were fortunate that when the transition took place, not only was it, as you mentioned, it was a heavy recruiting period, right? It was the transfer portal was opening up. There were some big recruiting events, one in Phoenix with the ECNL. And then in addition to that, it was signing day. So you're hoping that your 2026 class is still going to sign. And fortunately, I called each of them, and all of them decided to still commit and sign, which was great. So we have our 26 class intact. The 27 commits that we did have committed they're all still on board, which is great. But kind of business as usual. I right away went on the road to Phoenix, went to an event, of course, saw a lot of coaches who were very kind and congratulating me, super excited about the change. So recruiting is just kind of business as usual. But yeah, we had a few transfers on campus. We've got an exciting 26 we may look to add. But recruiting is it's moving, that's for sure.
Well, so you've been obviously as much a recruiter as you are now. I mean, you've been recruiting. You've been heavy in the recruiting for a long time. So I'm curious if the pitch changes at all when you are the head coach. And I guess the question there is, what will change? With obviously, you guys like the direction of the program under Heather, but now you get to put your imprint on. Is your imprint going to be any different? Are we going to see anything noticeably different?
Yeah. So, I mean, look, I think you have to start with where the program is at, right? And this program is at a very healthy place in terms of where our culture is. Our players are incredibly committed to each other. And Heather did an unbelievable job at establishing and leading this culture, right? And so one of the things that we talked a lot about with the players when the transition took place is what are the things that are really important for us to keep as we move forward, right? But then with change, there comes an opportunity to assess maybe areas where there's room for growth. And if you look at what we've done the last 3 years, we've not achieved on the field what the expectations of this program are. The expectation of this program is that we're competing for and winning championships, which we have a rich history of that, which is great, right? But the question is, how do we get back to that? What things do we need to change to get back to competing for championships? And so, I think one of the questions one of the reporters asked me is, he said the team usually takes on the personality of the head coach, right? And I describe myself, I'm someone who's incredibly organized. I'm very hardworking. I like to be very clear in what my expectations are. So I hope that what you see is that you see a team who very much understands what their roles and responsibilities are, that we play a very organized but exciting attacking style of soccer, and we find a way to, where we tied more games than we should have this year. You see those ties start to turn into some wins, so that we are competing for and winning championships.
So competing for winning championships in the new Mountain West, is that doable? Are you guys going to be a championship contender?
Yeah, I absolutely believe 100% that we will be.
Carly, you are awesome. This has been a fun transition. I know a lot of people are going to miss Heather, but they're going to get to know you.
Absolutely.
And
we'll miss her too.
Yeah, it's exciting times ahead for Lobo Soccer. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Jeff.
All right, there you go. What's up in 505? Hope you guys enjoyed that with Carly Nelson. Hope you guys enjoyed the main guest on this Talking Grammar episode with Sundance Wicks. And I just want to let you guys know that I appreciate you. abqjournal.com/sports is where you can get all our coverage. abqjournal.com/subscribe is where you can support local journalism by subscribing to our print product, our digital product. When you subscribe to those things, you help projects like this, you help podcasts, you help all our coverage. The Albuquerque Journal still is covering every road game around the Mountain West this season. We're the only outlet doing that. So I do appreciate the Journal for allowing me to do that. And I appreciate you guys and your support by supporting local journalism to allow us to have the resources to do that. So much appreciation all around, all kinds of love in this Christmas season. And hope you guys enjoyed that. Also, once again, much appreciation to Sandia Sportsbook sponsoring this podcast and a bunch of the sports podcasts here on the Albuquerque Journal Podcast Network. Until next time, guys, thanks for being here.